It started from high in the afternoon. The waves was high like you were in Hawaii. When you see these waves coming in, because we are right on the sea line. The morning when we got out, that they say, okay, it's safe now to come out, and I walk out. I almost dropped. Containers turned upside down. It's containers that came from the harbor that was up on the rocks by us. We had cars, 4 wheels just turned upside down. Because this hurricane, to me, it had tornado in it, it had earthquake, it had everything. All I was thinking is my home. That's all I could think. I want to go home, I want to go home.
Known for its warmth, beauty and hospitality, the Caribbean attracts millions of visitors every year. However, these idyllic islands also face threats of earthquakes, landslides, hurricanes and other hazards which present a growing need for improved disaster management.
We recognize that the islands of the Caribbean are vulnerable to a range of natural and man-made hazards, including earthquakes, floods, landslides, oil spills, tsunamis, and of course hurricanes. As a result, the objective of the R3I is to empower the territories to reduce the impact of these expected hazards by enhancing their understanding of how they will affect communities, livelihoods, and development, by improving their planning processes, and by having better data, information and communication systems.
The Regional Risk Reduction Initiative is a EU-funded program which is being managed by UNDP in Barbados, and it's meant for the British and Dutch OCTs, the Overseas Territories and Countries, and it is meant to reduce risks where it pertains to hurricanes, floods, tsunamis, and any type of disaster that might happen to any of the territories.
Our involvement was mainly because we had some issues being a new agency and new to disaster management or new to comprehensive disaster management. There were some things that we needed to do that the project would have provided assistance for. The main project that we're doing here through the R3I is the vulnerability assessment. Now, up until now, we have been focusing on hurricanes, and we know that we are vulnerable, but we just don't know how vulnerable we are. So this project has given us the opportunity to explore that area and to develop those vulnerable areas that we have.
I'm working on hazard and vulnerability map assessment. So basically we are working on the different hazards that can hit the different small islands. So we are dealing with like Cayman, Grand Cayman, the Aruba Island, the Montserrat, and so we are dealing with different hazards. That is the difficult issue. So we are dealing with the hurricane hazard, with the flooding hazard, with the storm surge hazard, but also with the seismic hazard or volcanic hazard. So basically we are trying to figure out which kind of hazard are interesting the different islands. So we are dealing with the very different and broad, extensive different hazard in different islands.
We have on the island, we have some places that's very sensitive for disaster. Like we have flooding areas. We have an oil refinery on the island. We are on tourist island, and a tourist island, that means a lot of big planes is coming in, with ships is coming in, that if something happens, it's very sensitive for the island, if something goes wrong. And that's why we are doing our best with the UNDP, with the project R3I, to prepare the people on the island in case of an emergency.
we have different kind of risks on the island. If you think about disaster, you have the natural disaster, you know, like hurricane, things like that, which can happen. Flooding, we have had last year a very big unexpected flooding. And on an island like this, you have different kinds. We have refinery, we have large ships with every kind of product coming into the harbor. We have a very narrow harbor. On both sides of the harbor, we have you have the downtown, let's say that. So if something happens there, we will have a big problem. So all you can think about danger and disaster is possible on a small island. And when you are on a small island like this, you also have a small capacity of people to help in case of a disaster.
Savannah has a couple of problems. We have excavated in the hills significantly, which has created an erosion and hillslide problem for us. We have also built way too much and way too close on each other, which makes the dissipation of water in the ground extremely difficult and the flow off on the hills extremely fast. So we get with maybe 4 inches, 5 inches of rain, we can already have a little river running down the roads.
We have a specific community that lies between the beach and the pond, and flooding is an issue in that community. Well, most of the communities that are next to the ponds, they are low-lying, and we've had experiences before in 1999 Hurricane Lenny when the eastern area, sandy ground, and the valley area flooded due to the amount of rainfall that we received.
Hurricane Lenny was a traumatic experience for farmers, Department of Agriculture, etc. I remember the morning when my brother-in-law that lives in the valley area called me early morning and said that he could not see the Department of Agriculture. The buildings were completely covered. I thought he was joking. Rushed to the valley area and realized that it was completely underwater, at least up to 15 feet of water.
To reduce losses due to hazard impacts, it is critical to deliver information rapidly to the population and response agencies about imminent threats via early warning systems.
I was brought on board with this project as the CAP and Alerting Tools Specialist. I'm the expert in that field. I've been working with it since '04. It's a very important international standard. As we know, disasters know no boundaries, and alerts and warnings must be able to be transferred from one environment to another. So the R3I is a regional capability for supporting alert and warning, and that's the part that I play. For instance, here in Anguilla, they started with a pilot several years ago, and they've actually worked with their system quite a bit to be able to take the potential of a tsunami threat and be able to get that alert out to their public.
We've had the Anguilla warning system in since 2008, working with only one server and one radio station. And the main challenge has been provision of funding. And through the R3I, we are going to be receiving funding to completely flesh out the system, to purchase additional sirens, additional units to interrupt radio stations, and additional units to interrupt television stations, and basically just fully flesh out the Anguilla warning system.
R3I is developed mainly for the technocrats, to put it that way. The project's helping the technocrats to do their work better, which means that the average citizen will notice that early warning systems will be put in place, so the average citizen can be warned on time about approaching hazards, what to do, what not to do. The mapping of vulnerable areas will help town and country planners, for example, to identify which areas have a certain risk, which measures can be taken to avoid those, and in this way to protect the citizens that live there or are planning to live there.
Before we start with Chapter 3, I almost forgot. I want to show you guys a map of Curacao, which has many layers in it. All layers are turned on, but this map has definition queries, it has layer groupings, it also has...
Well, the purpose of this workshop is to get the participants involved in working with the GIS software, because basically they use a lot of mapping, which is in their everyday work, so they can know all the possibilities and all the functions and all the benefits they can get from that desktop software. And what they benefit from is they learn all the new ways to use the information that they have, to use it in a GIS software. And through that GIS software, they connect to the citizens, of course, giving them the information as timely as possible, as fast as possible, and as dynamic as possible.
I think it's a very valuable workshop because with the GIS you can display a lot of data that has a spatial component. This type of data, especially for the Met Office, it's very important because we have like rain data. We have rain stations all over the islands, and with this project we could display how much rain falls over the island. Because, for example, Curaçao is very prone to flooding. We've had several events of flooding. Last year we had Tomas, and last night we even had some flooding in certain areas. With this project, those areas will be visible for us, and what the R3I project will bring for us is that the modeling, the hazard modeling, will indicate to us which areas are prone to flooding and how much rain has to fall before these areas get flooded. So for us at the Met Office, then this will make it easier for us to say, warn the people outside, because our mission is to protect the people from natural disasters, and that the disaster office can evacuate these people out.
St. Martin, we had data, but not accurate data. Now with the IGL project, it gave us good information, accurate data, so that we could know, especially where low-lying areas is, and so that we could improve our response time and also involve the community at large with information and letting them know exactly where the low-lying areas is for their safety.
It's nice to have a lot of data, but you need to make a translation to information, from data to information. If I, for instance, tell you there's going to be 7 inches of rain, the math department tells you that. What you need to do is, okay, 7 inches of rain, that's data. But what is the 7 inches of rain going to do? It means that in this area, that area, and that area, you will flood in 3 minutes, and in other areas, you will flood in 1 minute, or other areas won't flood at all. That's information. So you have the gathering of data, and you have the translation into information, valuable information you can use to plan, because data are gathered in real-time situations, but they're being used in prevention. Well, you'd say, maybe how can you prepare for the unexpected? But you know there's many things that can happen that you don't know what is going to happen, but you know that you can train. So for anybody, any organization, training is you never train enough.
Efficient response by emergency services and the community can reduce the loss of lives and property after a disaster. Urban search and rescue capacity, therefore, is one of the important needs in the territories that R3I is addressing.
The whole idea is to empower and, the community, the Caribbean community islands, where they can be more self-reliant and resourceful. Some countries are receiving early warning systems. Some countries are receiving different tools, different technology, software and stuff that they can use into their disaster management system. Some are receiving search and rescue. We're going to be doing the medical first responder. We've got the collapse search and rescue, the collapse structure and search techniques and consideration, where we teach them how to triage buildings. We also teach them how to build shoring, how to make the buildings safe enough for them to effectively go in and do their search and their rescue.
Is all the partners are working together in a structured and organized platform and format, and everybody knows where they came from. Everybody knows where collectively you want to go. You want to go to a better product, and what's a better product? Swift search and rescue operations, mitigation, those things. There is better structures, there's better information, there's better methodology, better people, more skills, more training. So yes, And the answer is yes. We see an increase in the professionalism, and all the partners in the search and rescue world, in the disaster relief world, have a part of the product. And what we all produce collectively is what you as a citizen would like to have, and that's some kind of assurance that when something happens, we come to the rescue.
I was the warden here at East End Primary School when my greatest experience was when I went past. I had 167 people here in the shelter. I did not know what to expect, but during the hurricane, the roof was being blown off. We had a lot of people crying. We did our best because people were coming in during the hurricane and everything. And we were blessed that we did not lose anyone during the hurricane in East End.
The long-term outlook has to be climate change is one of the major factors that are going to be impacting these islands. All of the associated occurrences that will happen, sea level rise, warmer climates, more frequent storms, drier or wetter environment, all of these remain major threats to the Cayman and something that the department is gravely concerned about. An environment that is kind of adapted to hazards or available, that has some capacity to deal with any kind of environmental impacts is definitely one that the Cayman Islands would like to see. Mapping exercises provide baselines, they provide very important tools for management when it comes to looking at the natural environment. ArcInfo and GIS are very important tools that we use. Historical data is loaded into those, and it allows us to show through time how things are changing as the climate changes. They're also very important at times of environmental disasters when we're able to either use the maps to decide where best to utilize resources or to look at changes that have occurred as a result and things that we could do to intervene.
The advantage of this project is that it forces cooperation between the Dutch and the UK overseas territories, which was not really something we would think of in the past. So this project really enforces those cooperation efforts, and I must say it really does work well.
Before this project, not many of us knew each other. But I had no idea or had any knowledge of anyone in the Dutch territories. And with attending meetings and trainings and other seminars, we have now come to a point where I think we're all comfortable with each other's systems.
The best thing I have learned is that knowing other people in the Caribbean before that project started, I didn't have any contact in the Caribbean. And the greatest is to get a lot of disaster managers, know them and know what are they doing, and exchange of work.
I think R3I has a good knowledge base that we should tap into more often. We have a very funny way of doing things in the Caribbean that we don't use our brothers and sisters from the other islands that go through these same problems like us. Other countries go through hurricanes, other countries have engineers. It might even be the same as it is there here, but nevertheless I think a good engineer is a good engineer no matter where you put him in the world.
The R3I project has already had a significant impact, with those from the local communities of the islands seeing the benefits in very practical ways.
We are collecting data at the vulnerable buildings. So there are about 200 buildings we are taking data collection. If something happens, we have all the data in the GIS system.
I'm the principal of this school. The school's name is Rosario Collegium. Well, I think it's very important to include the schools, because after all we are responsible for so many children and also for the teachers. When something happens, we know what we must do, what we have to do, and it gives you a sense of security.
Much has been achieved, but there is much more work to be done in order to effectively mitigate the ruinous effects of natural disasters to the lives and economies of these vulnerable countries.
UNDP, Barbados and OCS would wish to commend the European Commission for this important investment in disaster risk reduction in the countries that are benefited in this project, specifically the overseas territories. This project is very important to the building of capacity in this area, in these countries. And one of the real tangible outcomes we have noticed is genuine collaboration through experience sharing and cooperation among the territories. Finally, UNDP sees this as a very important process in the sustainable development of the region, an area for which we are focused, because disaster risk reduction is critical to sustaining the development gains that we've seen in the Caribbean.